These are all of the foods that I feed in my aquarium, and each one of them has strengths and horrifying weaknesses. Today we're going to talk about it. And if you like aquarium content, go ahead and subscribe. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a minute because a lot of times when I see online people talking about food that they're feeding to their aquarium fish, there's a lot of bias, to put it lightly. And if you've been watching this channel, you'll know that I am coming from a place of no fish keeping at all. This is my first time around the block. And now that I've had a few months to kind of work with these individual foods, I've got some thoughts. So over here laying down, I have two types of nori that we're gonna talk about. Oh, I just remembered, I actually have another one. Hold on. That third nori. But we're gonna come back to the nori. I'm just gonna talk about the mainstays of my fish's diet, and let's talk about how I ended up with each of these and why I like or don't like them. So it goes without saying with these foods that I have personally not had any of them. I will say though that there are some clear preferences when it comes to my fish and these foods. All four of these are sort of the primary foods that are being constantly fed to my fish. Let's talk about that in more detail. So this TDO Chroma Boost is one that is in my automatic feeder, and my fish get this twice a day, just a little bit. All my fish, except for my firefish goby, seem to really like this stuff, but it's got one really big problem. This stuff floats, and it really likes to float, and it really hates sinking. The fish that I have that don't really like to eat on the surface, this can be a problem, primarily that goby. Really to the point where I had to install a feeding ring just to use this food. So originally when I got this, the purpose of it was for the firefish goby, but it doesn't get anywhere near this stuff. Also, the chromis is good for them too. Being omnivores, I guess it's good because this is kind of the meat option, but they tear this stuff apart. I'm not sure that anyone else gets to eat any of this but the chromis. Next up, we have our Seachem Chlorella flakes. Let's talk about it. Honestly, how I ended up with this was because my first two fish, which were my clownfish that went in the main display, this is what the fish store was feeding them. So I knew that they would eat this and we wouldn't have any eating issues. That's really why I ended up with this. And I've got some left. Whether or not I'm gonna continue this after, I don't know. But the chromis also really like this. This has a tendency to make a mess though, especially if you overdo it. It likes to float. If I want this to get down into the water column, I have to put a pinch in my finger and dip it down in there, and then it sinks, and then everybody sort of goes into a frenzy over it. But this can make a mess. I will say also that in my office tank with my baby clownfish, something that I really like about this is that since they are flakes, you can get in there and you can really crush them between your fingers, so you get tiny little pellets for tiny fish that have tiny mouths. So I like that part of this, and that would be the same for any kind of flake food, but they seem to really like this. So I don't know if this is gonna stick around, but this is still a daily into my tank. So next up, this is a very recent addition, and this is Shrimps Pro seafood patties. Now, like I said, this is a new addition to the menu here. That's because I've only recently gotten shrimps or any kind of invertebrates in my tank. I will say that the shrimp really like this stuff. So do the snails as well. Something I really like about this is that as soon as this stuff hits the water, it sinks like a rock. As it's sinking, the larger fish will grab it and try to take it, but they just spit it out and it ends up hitting the floor. I like to stick this in after one of the other foods are in there and the fish are distracted, just so it can hit the sand bed. But the snails actually like this so much that I have to make sure that I get enough down there so that the shrimp can actually get it, because the snails start to come out of the sand and go after this. Right now, this is being used to supplement the shrimp's diet because I don't know that there's enough algae and that kind of stuff in there for them to eat and survive. So this is in there as just in case. So I don't know how long this is going to stick around, because eventually the tank should provide all the nutrition that they need. But right now, this is a really good option, and they seem to really love it. And it's cheap, and it's on Amazon. Right here is the star of my menu for my fish. When I tell you that the fish absolutely go nuts for this stuff, I mean, it is insane. The feeding frenzy, particularly with the Tang. Love this stuff. And initially, I had my Tang eating this stuff more or less exclusively. But if you've been watching all at home, you'll know that my Tang doesn't seem to really like the Nori, and we're going to get to Nori in a minute. And I picked this up because this is effectively Nori in pellet form. The Clownfish love it. The Goby loves it. The Chromas don't touch it though. They don't like this stuff at all. They'll get it and they spit this right out. Just based on my fish's reaction to this stuff, I can't suggest this enough. Hikari, Seaweed, Extreme. Do it. Now let's talk Nori. I've got 3 different kinds. Julian Springs Sea Veggies. This was a recommendation from Caveman Aquatics. Ocean Nutrition Green Marine Algae with garlic. And then in a Ziploc bag here is plain Nori from Premier Aquatics in Atlanta. I would love to tell you about how my fish love this Nori, but my Tang, who this is for, won't touch any of it. I've been told multiple times that that's just because that Tang is a juvenile and sometimes it can take them a while to kind of warm up to it. That's fine, but I do have some thoughts individually about these and their use. Even though my fish aren't eating this stuff, there are some huge differences between them when it comes to actually using them in the tank. Let's start here with the garlic Nori situation. Instant that you open this package, boy, does it reek of garlic. They were not lying when they said green marine algae with natural garlic extract. Boy, you know there's garlic. Why this is important is because if you're sensitive to smells, which I'm not honestly, but if you are, this is gonna be a problem for you. But also the garlic extract that's on here, when it gets on your fingers, you're gonna be smelling garlic on your fingers the rest of the day. So it's just something to keep in mind with that, you know, putting gloves on. Fish won't touch it, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Next up is Sea Veggies. This one is a plain Nori as well, but there's a huge difference in this one and the other ones. This starts to disintegrate and break down in the water very, very quickly. If you're in a situation like me where you've got a fish that isn't eating Nori, or if you've got a fish that isn't eating it very quickly, this is gonna be a big problem. This actually made a huge mess in my tank because my fish wasn't eating it, but it happened the same day. Like it happened maybe within 3 or 4 hours, this stuff started just coming apart and making a huge mess. And then we've got the plain Nori from Premier Aquatics. This is probably just some prepackaged bulk thing that they do. I should mention that these two can go for, I don't know, a day or more, and they don't have that breaking up problem. I think that's important to note because again, if you're going through something like me, let's just say a plain Nori like this from Premier and this particular Ocean Nutrition product don't break down and make a huge mess in your tank. But if you've got tangs or fish that eat Nori that are eating it like a normal fish, this stuff isn't gonna last hours in the tank like mine. So if you're just starting out with, in fact, I would say stay away from it just in case. Also on a related note, if you've got any ideas to tempt a fish that isn't eating Nori, that should be eating Nori, to eat the Nori, please let me know down in the comments what you've got. So these are all the foods that have been going into my tank, whether it's a one-shot deal like this or every 12 hours like this. Well, I guess it's more like every 6 or 8 hours, but yeah. But there's one more thing we need to talk about. This is almost hard to talk about because of the stress and pain that this caused me. Frozen food. frozen food. So in here, we've got a lot of varieties. We've got brine shrimp, a marine cuisine, emerald entree, and then plankton. It's basically just different combinations of shrimp and stuff like that. Here's the thing. I know people swear by this. I have tried this. I literally tried this one time. And this made such an unbelievable mess in my tank that I'm not sure if I'm going to try it again. Also, my fish didn't really care for it. You know, I've basically been hearing that brine shrimp in particular is like crack for fish. Mine are not crackheads. I initially bought this because, again, if you've been following along at home, you'll know that I had a powder blue Tang that unfortunately died, but I was trying to use this to tempt that fish to eat. And it just didn't work. But as you can see, I've literally tried this one time. We have one square missing right here. And I don't know, I may try this again, but I'm not convinced. But anyway, as I was saying, these are the foods that my fish get. What are you feeding and why? How'd you get started on those things? Is there something that you think I have got to add to the menu here? Please let me know down there in the comments. Reckless reefing.